You've got to let go of guilt. You've got to let go of self-incrimination. You've got to stop wallowing in defeat. You've got to forgive yourself and move the fuck on. Forgive my French. I don't know why we even say that, because I don't think that's how they say it in French. It's so easy. I see it in the faces of young people all the time. People of all ages. It starts when you're 4 probably, or 5, and you get that first big disappointment where the kid across the street doesn't seem to want to hang out with you, and you feel deflated and like there's something wrong with you. And in fact, you've been informed that there's something wrong with you. Your face is too wide, your nose is too flat, your skin is too dark, your eyes are too wide or crooked, your teeth are too funny looking, your butt is too fat, whatever. And soon you begin to think about things like that and notice that the girl with the more perfect hair and more perfect face and less fat butt and much lighter skin seems to be getting all the attention. And here you are, kind of, nobody can quite figure out what you are. Not that it matters, because you're 4 years old. But there's one little pendulum formed by the voices of people with opinions, and you fell into it. You hung on to it. You let that kind of stay inside you. You don't even know it. It's just like deep and buried, but it keeps coming up, and you don't recognize for what it is. So it pushes you around. It's that big, giant silver ball, and it gets bigger as you use it again and again. You give it energy again and again. And it's just a subtle little thing. You're not good enough. You're not pretty enough. There are people who are prettier than you. There are people who are smarter than you. There are people who are more likable than you, more worthy than you, better than you, better than you. You're not good enough. You're not good enough. And it's in your mind, and it's there, and you try to suppress it, and you try not to believe it. But what you run into as your life progresses, every time you turn around, seems to just reinforce that belief. And whether it's your parents or your friends or the fellow students or your teachers, and as you get older, fellow workers, and when you have jobs, and people you're trying to make friends with and socialize with, and groups you form and join, or whatever, anything you're involved in it the whole time. There's always this comparison with the people you interact with, and that doesn't even begin to talk about all the examples you see on television and in the movies and in media, and you see how people are supposed to live and what good lives are supposed to look like, and depending on your upbringing and your exposure and your environment, and how just you were sort of socialized and conditioned and taught to believe, you have opinions which aren't necessarily even opinions that your soul ever wanted to agree with. They just sort of were handed to you, and you kind of just hung on to them, and there they are, festering, bubbling, waiting to pop up and tell you how to move, how to live, what to think, where to go next. So there you are, exposing your dreams to these sort of grating pendulums of weird negative thoughts that flutter around inside your subconscious and just are like butterflies that just escape once in a while and bump up against whatever you're trying to get done and knock you off course. Because sometimes those pendulums are like paper, It's not a big, heavy, giant silver ball dangling from a big, thick, rough rope. It's something paper-like almost, and the slightest wind of intention, outer intention or inner intention, wherever that's coming from, that doesn't suit you, can still come and knock you off course. It's not possible to tell your mind how to think its next thought, not specifically, not exactly, right? It's just going to happen, right? And you can think about what you're going to say before you say it, but you couldn't think about what you were going to think about what you were going to say before you said it. See what I mean? My next action, the next instant thing that will happen in my reality, and at that moment create that reality in the field of variations, that split second or split microcosmic, whatever the tiniest thing you can be, boom, what that is, I cannot predict. Because in the act of predicting, I am changing it. Because it didn't happen spontaneously. So it's impossible for me to already have known it. And yet, on the other hand, because everything that's ever happened already happened, and therefore it exists, and which means it did happen, oh, shit, I suppose I could have, because now the possibility of that happening, whether it sounds impossible or not, just suddenly came into being, thanks to me thinking of it. But I thought of it before because it already happened. Oh my God. Okay, that's too fucking deep. I'm sorry. Jesus. I don't think it matters, maybe. And that would be, I think, how we should go with this. Okay, people? I mean, if you can find somebody else who explains it better, I'll try and understand it, but this shit is sometimes a little too deep. But I think the bottom line is that every thought, every action we take, every word we speak, everything about everything that we are doing at every moment, at all times, is creating a reality. And as it happens, the next thing happens, and the next thing happens. And in almost every example, we are in some way involved in a choice. Okay? We are in some way involved in a choice. It doesn't mean we had time to prepare for the horrible thing that was about to happen to us. And yes, bad things happen to people all the time. I'm not trying to say that, oh, you could have chosen not to be born, by a whatever type of horrible parent in a terrible environment with lots of bad shit happening before you even could speak, I think that whole idea that you can choose everything is good to a point, but you have to work within parameters. I can't choose to be a different skin color, a different socioeconomic place where I was born, or the intelligence of my parents, or the economy of the neighborhood. I mean, that is absurd that I chose that. Although I suppose it's not absurd anymore because I just thought of it. Damn it, Vadim. Ooh, I hate when that happens. I guess my point is, anything's possible. I mean, who's to say that it's not? Who really knows? We don't really know. That's one thing I am certain of. We don't really know. We, the universal we, all of us we's, okay? All of us. Nobody knows. And even if you find that one person who supposedly knows everything, maybe Jesus, right, if he really was the Son of God, or maybe other gods who are connected to the one God. But even still, you kind of think that maybe there's a hierarchy of who knows really everything and really no one does, and it's even at the highest level of demons, gods, etc., there's still no clue what really is going on. I mean, it could be that beyond imagining. Of course, it probably is. It's the unknowable, right? It's the unknowable. And that's why I believe in magic. Okay, I just want to sidestep for a second because I feel like I haven't done enough talking about witchcraft and wizardry, so to speak. And I want to attract those kind of listeners because you are my people. I am your person. We have something in common because we believe in magic. Okay? And I believe in magic despite a very suspicious analytical mind that's constantly making my beliefs in magic and my working in magic more difficult than it needs to be. Or at least that's how it's been in the past, okay? But this reality transurfing side track little deviation that I've taken has been going on because I am really fascinated by it, and a lot of it makes a lot of sense, and it's definitely working for me. Not all the time, not to all, I can't say everything's been perfect. I've had some ups and downs, but, as a general life track, if you looked at the direction, if you were looking at one of those graphs at the office, a line graph, the slant is definitely working its way up, okay? So I am not, fearful. Oh my God, yes I am. Okay, shit. See? Now, okay, you're gonna witness it right here, right now. How the mind is trying to use transurfing techniques to deal with anxiety. I can't explain what it was, but for some reason I felt like I was saying something that wasn't a truth, maybe, that it was like bullshit, and I was feeling guilty about it, and recriminating myself for giving myself more credit than I was due, and for not wanting to admit that at some levels things have been kind of going downhill recently, and I think it's just from all the stress of moving, and not having had time to read the reality transurfing book like I'd been doing almost every day for a while. So I took almost like 3 or 4 days off from my daily read, or I had done one reading but no time to edit it, so I didn't get that second listen, which always helps reinforce things for me while I'm editing it so it doesn't sound too crappy when it's your turn to hear it. And there was this gap, and I've lost something important in the move, and it's distressing to me, even though I've been trying to not let it get to me. But it's definitely been on my mind. It keeps coming up, and I need to drop importance, I know. And I gave myself a method for dealing with it, such as throughout the day, take a moment to look through another bag or box. I have hundreds of bags and boxes I still need to unpack. So you can imagine that now that this item is lost, it could be anywhere, right? Not something I can just stop what I'm doing and look for that item all day long. So I've been breaking it down into parts and pieces, and I should feel pretty good about that. And yet, whenever I'm remembering that I still haven't found it, I feel myself, kicking myself in the ass, basically, giving myself a you done wrong sort of jarring complaint demerit. And then there's that race of guilt, and then a need to do something about it, but a lack of knowledge what would work, and then a sense of hopelessness that I've lost it and somehow it's gone and I'll never find it, and oh no, what's going to happen, and all that information lost. Right? And that happens on the internal brain side. And then finally Vadim steps in, and it doesn't necessarily work great if I'm really anxious, but it calms me down. And I remember, okay, you need to calm down. It's okay. Don't give it too much importance. Just do something else. Intention will refine you again. Your intention will find you again if you have the determination to have something. What was it that you wanted before you got derailed by these self-incriminating thoughts? Okay, all right, you remember. Now play that slide in your head. You know, what is it that you were doing? What was it that you wanted to do that day? Towards what purpose? And what is the end result? Okay, all right, you remember. Now play that slide in your head. You know, what is it that you were doing? What was it that you wanted to do that day? Towards what purpose? And what is the end result? What is that thing that you're going for? Relive the slide of that experience of actually living with this result in your possession, manifested, existing in your life. Relive that moment. Become joyous in the realization that you can return to going in that direction. And if you have to address what just happened, think of it only as a learning experience and find the positive in it so that you can call it part of your wave of fortune. It was a good thing that happened. It reminded you of something else. It was part of the wave of fortune. You're not upset. You're not focusing on anything negative. You're finding the benefits in what's happening to you, and you are using that as energy to move forward on the life track in the field of variations that you are on, that you want to be on. And you can keep going that way until the next time, which could be really soon if you're like me and this stuff is hard for you because you've got a lot of issues, you know, anxiety, whatever. I'm not going to list them all because it would sound really weird and whiny, but, you know, I'm probably no different than a lot of you. And if you're better than that, well, fine. You know, that's great. I'm trying to get there too. You know, we all are. Or we're, you know, not trying to get there because we're going to be self-significant and we're going to be okay with where we're at, which is a good thing, actually. But, you know, like hang on to it just because it's easier, even though it's not really where you want to go. Anyhow, that's enough out of me. I think I need to stop because I'm thirsty and I have to move on and do other things. So, thank you for listening.